Welcome to night 4 of 13 Nights of Halloween. My series wouldn't be complete if I didn't recommend the hell out of the one book that scared me this year. If you want to know what would have happened if Lovecraft had written One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, stay with me. There was no way I couldn't love The Patient, a 2020 book by Jasper DeWitt. And here's why. Let's start with the synopsis. The book is titled The Patient. You might wonder, who is this patient after all? Nobody. Just a 40-year-old man who has been in this mental institution since he was 6. And still remains undiagnosed because nobody can put him in a box. And not only that, everybody that has come in close contact with him has either committed suicide or gone mad themselves. What any reputable director would do? Keep him isolated, of course, and only the people that have managed to survive him this far watching him. Many years go by. After all, if you do the math, that's 34. Joe is quite happy as a mental patient can be. Let's call him content. 34 years of contentment, if that's a word, go by, and then we meet Parker. Parker is this newly graduated from a Ivy school who entered the field of psychiatry because he wanted to change the world. And not only that, he went to a state-run institution because he thought that, someone of his pedigree would only bring changes to the system. Let's give him that. He's willing to be the change he wants to see in the system. Amazing. Only he's curious, his ego is kind of there, his heart is in the right place, but his arrogance is always there. So, of course, when he comes to this institution, he hears about Joe, and he thinks that he will be the person to diagnose him because everybody else missed the obvious, but he wouldn't. Nothing can go wrong, can it? Oh, let's see. Okay, in my opinion, The Patient is the perfect plot, and it has a nearly flawless execution. I'll get into it towards the end of this because there might be some spoilers, but let's start at the character work. I really loved the idea of having such a small cast of characters to get involved in, because let's not beat it around the bush. This book is about Parker and Joe, period. However, having so few other characters allow us to get to know them and have a sense of the outside. I don't think you can read The Patient without seeing the story through someone's eyes. Not everybody can be the mind space of Joe. No, not everybody would be in the mind space of Parker. So having these other characters allows you to choose what angle you want to see the story in, because it's a story after all. Remember, Joe was a child when he got in there. And for that reason, Joe is extremely repulsive. But he also has this visceral effect of summoning your empathy. Even if you don't want to give it to him, you do, because we get to know his story through Parker's blog post, he posted his experience with Joe and in this institution through blog posts. So we find this out after the fact. I don't think I can say enough how disturbing Joe is. I recommend you go into this knowing there are some major contact warnings. Look it up for yourself. We'll stay here until the end of the video when I get into my spoiler session. But in my opinion, I don't think a horror fan can go through life without meeting Joe. I'm not even gonna beat it about the bush, as amazing of a character as Joe is. I will admit that the reason why I invested so much in this book and I still carry it with me, and I'm embarrassed about this, but it is I am Parker. Without the arrogance. Everything Parker did, I would have done. And his hope, his heart was in the right place. His hope to save Joe, the mistakes he made that cost him dearly, I would have done it, because there's no way I wouldn't have tried to save that little boy that still lived inside that old man. Well, not old, but you know, the 40-year-old institutionalized, whatever. So I think because of my, what is the word I'm looking for? Projection, maybe? But just because Parker was me. And I read this book really feeling like I was face to face with Joe, and that terrified the life out of me. The things he does are repulsive. But you still wonder because he was a child in the beginning when everything started happening. I don't know. Brilliant. How brilliant is that? That you want to hate a character and you can't because you see a glimmer of hope. Jasper, bravo, my friend. And bravo because there are things in this book that turned my stomach, that still haunt me to this day, but I still love and recommend this book. You made me go past my contact warnings against my best advice, and I still love and reread your story. In case you haven't guessed this, I definitely rated this very highly. It's a 4.91 mustaches, rounded up to 5. And I really recommend you pick up this. And it's soon to be a movie too. So I suggest before our director ruins your chance to experience this for the first time with fresh eyes, go read it. It's not long. Okay, and then watch the movie. Let's get into my personal opinion, but some of this is going to bleed through into the spoiler and it's going to get worse. So thank you for being here. Pick up the book. If you decided to stay, knowing there'll be spoilers from now on, comment down below if you read the book, what you thought about it. Let's go. Especially tell me if you liked the ending or not, because Jasper did a really good job at keeping the reader guessing until the very end, whether this is a supernatural story or not. And he made a choice that I simply adored, but it's not going to be for everyone. The choice that he made at the end might turn some people off. I hope it doesn't turn you off, because I think it was the most brilliant thing that he could have done. Whether this book is supernatural or not, what really scared me was the human side. Joe brings the worst out of people, and he's clever. It is terrifying. So this book is terrifying in so many ways. First of all, it is human nature at its worst. Staff and patients alike. This is pure evil. Whether it was real or not, Joe as a child had an encounter with a monster, and the way that monster is described through the feelings of little 6-year-old Joe is terrifying. Literally That's the stuff nightmares are made out of. And that's when I closed the book, because I was reading at night. And don't make the same mistake I made. This is a book to be read during the day. The most terrifying thing about this book is that DeWitt managed to capture on the page true evil. And in general, a sociopath is something that is both terrifying and fascinating. A lot of people like reading true crimes and things like that. But when you see a child doing unspeakable evil and your spine doesn't chill, I don't know what you're made of, but I'm not sure I want to go there. I am happy and I feel human that can still unsettle me to the extent it did. Now, let's get into deeper spoilers. Jasper is a genius. Joe is literally a monster that internalizes the negative feedback others project onto him and becomes what others fear the most. So you hear what I'm saying? I'm telling you that he will be your worst nightmare. And there's nothing you can do about it, because he he smells your fear. He feels it. He goes there. And it's to the extent that you have no choice but to go mad or commit suicide. Joe. And you know what? And I think this is where I might disagree with some people that didn't like the supernatural Lovecraftian direction that DeWitt took Joe. But I'll tell you why I appreciate it so much. Because Joe is pure evil. And by turning him into a monster, in a way, the evil that it was so hard to stomach in this book was dehumanized. And in doing that, I was satisfied, because I'd much rather have an alien monster that is capable of unspeakable things than to believe that a child is. I really couldn't stomach that. And if you read the book, there's a sexual assault scene that is a paragraph, half a page, but that still haunts me. So I much rather believe that a monster did that. And again, to the one point I didn't give, because I rated this book 10 on everything except for execution, which was a 9. And it's only because I was relieved and fascinated by the true nature of Joe. At the end, and again, this is a part of spoilers, it was led to believe that he's not one of its kind. So in that sense, I wish we had learned a little bit more about the mythology involved in whatever being that is, or a little bit more of world building. But then again, that's just me trying to rationalize my fear, because I'm still afraid of Joe. But I understand why Jasper didn't. Because by doing so, it would take away the impact of the narrative. So you know what? Let's scratch that. Now that I'm talking about it, this is actually a 5-star book. I'm going to change my rating. However, I would hope that in future books, we see more of these beings. And if that's the case, I want to see more of their mythos. And I'll say it one more time for those in the back. Pick it up and read it. I'm just very passionate about this book, even though you can't tell. But it's definitely one of my top 10 reads of the year in horror. The top, if not, because again, it really scared me. Jasper is a genius. A genius. I don't know if this made sense or not, because I'm still now in the patient mood like I am every time I talk about it. It drains me in a good way. But if you want to hear all my coherent thoughts, I have a blog post that I'm linking down below, and you can go read it if you're so inclined. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time, be the hummingbird.